take this show seriously, man. Best of Enemies can't be the best show on here no more. Come on. Why is James always late, man? What's going on? You know 4-4-3 actually makes sense when you add the goalkeeper in. I keep telling people this. There's 11 players on the pitch.
Well, you're not ready yet?
Lateness is greatness.
Hey everyone, welcome back to DR Sports and another Talking Tactics with me and Matisse. We're really excited to break down, obviously, the Liverpool win against Manchester City and a couple other games as well. First and foremost, yes, we've dressed up a little bit, haven't we, Matisse?
I think we had to.
Yeah, I think we did have to because, well, why don't you tell him why?
Well,
it was your idea.
You guys liked the show. We said, let's get more professional. You know, competition is very high with Monday Night Football. So we said, listen, we're going to have our own little dress up and smarten up. And I think we've done rather well. We look pretty good.
If Carragher and Neville can dress up, wear suits and, do their punditry and analysis all dressed up, why can't we?
Exactly.
So here we are. Let's do it. This is, I mean, I don't know how they feel so comfortable for most of the show, but, at least we look smart.
Yeah.
Listen, let's talk tactics. That's what we're here to do. Liverpool beat Manchester City. What a response after not only the defeat against Arsenal, of course they beat Rangers 7-1 in the week, but their response to how the season generally has been going, the narrative around them, their finish, Mane's a massive miss, whatever. And I'll give us credit. I think we played down a little bit this whole they're completely finished thing last week. And they responded brilliantly against Manchester City again.
Yeah, I thought they got it spot on tactically. I liked seeing Salah a lot more central. He was getting way more involved in terms of just making those runs and beyond. We saw multiple times before he even scored the goal that he got in behind that defence. Obviously, Edison made a massive save. Just got his fingertips to it.
What a save,
for me, Salah's still the best finisher in the team. I know Núñez was the player that they brought in as the striker, the big man, loads of money spent on him. But Salah's the one that's been going for golden boots year in, year out. He's the one with the pedigree. He's the one with the record. So it's good to see him back in those central areas. And I thought it gave them a lot more balance as well in the team because Elliott's naturally a midfielder. So he could slot in as well, drop in. Jota was working very hard down that left-hand side. I thought defensively, it just gave them a lot more stability as well instead of just being so gung-ho. And yeah, I thought they got it spot on tactically. And I thought Gomez was just incredible as well. I mean, his performance was rolling back the ages there.
Well, there are a lot of changes to this Liverpool team. I mean, you've got Milner coming in at right back for Trent Alexander-Arnold. You've got Gomez and Van Dijk, I believe. Maybe not the first time they played together this season, but they've not been playing as frequently. A couple of years ago when the start of this Liverpool journey under Klopp was really getting going, in fact they could challenge City, it was those two as a partnership. Matip, Risi, Dunwell and Konate arrived. You then got Fabinho who came back in and was playing, at the base of a two with Thiago. And then you got Salah who's moved up front, Firmino who didn't start against Arsenal, Elliott who didn't start against Arsenal, Robertson didn't start against Arsenal. So there were quite a few changes, quite a few things for Liverpool to adapt to very quickly when you're facing the best in the league, if not the world.
Yeah, I remember when we was having the debate last week about Fabinho, whether he should have played against Arsenal for that defensive solidarity that was needed back there, just to give Thiago a little bit of help because he's more on the ball. That's what he was signed for, possession, those killer passes in between the lines. Defensively, though, he needs someone next to him. I liken it to like having a Matic or, someone rock solid back when we had that pivot of Matic and Kante, or even Matic and Fabregas when we won the titles. Thiago's a similar player to Fabregas, Matic, similar mold to Fabinho, so that was important. Robertson, we know what we're going to get from him, the energy down that left-hand side. And then I think Milner, that's the one that shocked me. I didn't see his performance coming. I thought Milner could be in for a long day. We know Foden's in good form. He's got a good record as well when he comes to Anfield. Very quick. He's been getting a lot of goals, making those kind of off-the-cuff runs off of Haaland. Everybody's watching Haaland, marking Haaland, focusing on Haaland. And Foden's been picking up the little gaps in between the centre-backs and gaps in between the full-back and centre-back and making those runs, scoring those goals, getting the finishing in. And Milner, to be fair to him, dealt with him. And it was Bernardo Silva actually in this game that was really the one that I was watching because he was very grimy this game. He was causing a lot of issues. He was just a menace. But Liverpool dealt with it, man. They were up for the fight. You could tell that Van Dijk and Gomez, they wanted to prove a point in this match.
It's not the first time that Klopp actually reverted to this formation when things haven't got quite gone quite so well for Liverpool in the 4-3-3. I remember a couple of years ago when I believe it was Shaqiri who came into the team to then make way for Salah to move up front, and that right space was occupied a little bit more. Elliott, again, maybe seen as a creator and stuff. So I don't think anything surprised me too much there. And I think Thiago alongside Fabinho, that's a better balance than Thiago and Henderson. I thought at the Emirates, even though they had that spell where they did dominate in the first half, Arsenal, if they got on the ball, are always going to have some joy against that midfield pairing. So, go on.
I think what I like about this whole situation here with Firmino and Salah is that it doesn't mean Salah has to be up front. He can still pull out wide, start in position out here, isolate defenders, take them on, but he's just got more movement and more space to run centrally, because Firmino's happy to drop deep. He's happy to go wide. Firmino's like a player that just is willing to sacrifice himself for the team constantly, whether it's off the ball or even on the ball. He's so technically just assured in his game, which obviously Núñez is a lot more rough around the edges. He needs to be more in the box, that penalty box striker, that guy that is on the end of things, where Firmino is happy to come and deal with build-up play. He's happy to come wide, like I said. So it just allows Salah to just be a little bit more free and not be, kind of pulled out to this right-hand side and have to stay here for the team shape.
Well, how many times have we seen this from Liverpool?
So simple to just change it to that, isn't it?
But managers more than ever are going for flexible things in games. I'm not even saying I couldn't watch as much of the game as I wanted to, but you can revert to things in different shapes and different systems in game. We've seen it at times at Arsenal where Zinchenko can hold the width, or can come into midfield if he needs to. We see it at Chelsea where it can be a back four or a back three, and that's another example of it. You can go revert to type, and being able to do that in game without using subs is kind of a big plus as well. Talk to me about Manchester City, because I looked on SofaScore and I looked on Google. Both times was a back three. People messaging me going, I think City are playing a back three here. And I was just like, okay.
There was a disagreement about this between Neville and Carragher.
Really? Yeah, okay.
They both saw different things. I agreed with Carragher, to be honest. I thought it was very clearly a back three. Cancelo was like up here, very, very wide right, almost playing as a winger with Foden on the other side. So they were basically extremely attacking wing backs, something I'm used to seeing at Chelsea. So I spotted it immediately personally there. And obviously you've got KDB in this half space as always. Anytime that Liverpool were dispossessed, they would just immediately want to hit on the transition, get KDB in this same pocket of space that he always wants to pick up, and immediately just try and cross the ball into Haaland for the back post. But credit to Gomez and Van Dijk, they dealt with it. Aerially, they were ready. Positionally, they were ready. There was a moment down the right-hand side where Van Dijk managed to cut out a Haaland cross. It would have been a simple tap-in. Gomez as well cut out many crosses from De Bruyne. For me, the biggest issue I had with this here was 3v3. You could see it time and time again when Liverpool on the attack. Man City was so exposed. They were isolated, just literally just 1v1 defending constantly with that 3v3 there.
You're doing this 3v3 at the back here.
And I don't really get why Pep didn't address it, because yes, Man City were in the game at all times and it was only 1-0. But this scenario, you just don't want to see this at any point, really. It was very bold of him, and it's quite surprising considering that Man City do tend to, they know that Anfield's a tough place to go. So I expected at one point that they would maybe revert back to a 4 and try and outnumber them in that regard. But for me, Cancelo was awful. I have to say it. He was so poor on that right-hand side. There was nothing. It's almost like on this left-back position, when he's a right footer, he's able to cut in, see more of the pitch, go on those dribbles, make those passes as well. He's a good crosser of the ball. But on that right-hand side, he was so predictable. Robertson just dealt with him. Every single time he was out there and he had a bit of space to potentially whip in a ball, he was just extremely predictable and just couldn't get past him, couldn't maneuver him. So I don't think that really worked in the end. And yeah, I think he probably is maybe a better left back than he is a right winger for sure. I'd say that.
Yeah, I can understand a little bit of what Guardiola's trying to do here, because how many times have we seen De Bruyne either make that underlapping run or just pull out a great cross into that's a poor arrow, but you get what I mean, a great cross to the back post. How many times have we seen Gundogan get into those areas as well? So positionally, I can kind of understand
it's what they've been doing all season, really. It's been working.
Only just tweak the formation. Bernardo Silva creating from deep, controlling with Rodri. So I can kind of understand the ideas a little bit, but we've got to look at the goal that Liverpool did score, and they got completely done by just some Salah magic, didn't they?
Yeah.
Obviously, we haven't depicted every single player on the pitch here, but what I wanted to highlight in this goal is that actually it feels like there shouldn't really be much of a problem here, because you got the three, De Bruyne, Gundogan, Bernardo shielding in front of Cancelo, and then here you've got Salah, who it's just pure magic. I think when you couple the bit of skill in the finish with Alisson's his distribution and his kick to pick him out from that distance as well on the counter attack. He's not got a lot of time between catching the ball and then executing that delivery.
Yeah,
it's got to go down as one of the great Premier League goals for me.
Alisson's pass is ridiculous, but we know he's capable of this. Him and Ederson have a competition every year who can do the best passes from goal, right? So that's not a surprise. It's just another bit of brilliance. But one thing that you're seeing here is that as soon as that ball's kicked, Cancelo is immediately just trying to engage.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't want to get into a foot race with Salah. We know Salah's extremely quick, but as soon as he doesn't win that initial engagement, he's gone. He's finished because he's put all of his kind of his movement into that, leaning forward, trying to make that tackle, trying to engage. And as soon as Salah's just managed to nip it past him, it's over. And like I said earlier, this is not the first time that Salah got in behind Man City's defense. He had a great shot that was saved by Ederson. And this time, there was he just dinked it over him, no doubt. And again, he's a player that's been coming under a bit of scrutiny, not having maybe his best season. There's been times where you could say on that right-hand side, he hasn't looked like himself. But like I said, I just think he's much better in these central areas, whether it's running from the right hand side, inverted and making those runs, and the balls coming in from the left hand side being spotted, or just even starting up there centrally. It's not something that you're going to see every single game because obviously Núñez is going to play, but the amount of times he got in behind, it was ridiculous. He was always going to get a goal at some point if he kept doing that.
Do you think Man City are trying to be more direct now? Do you think Man City they look at a player like Haaland? I was trying to have a dig through the numbers, and it doesn't suggest that they're crossing the ball any more than they did last season, or they're going long any more than they are last season, or passing wise. But does it feel just watching them like there's more emphasis on trying to get the ball to Haaland? I don't know. Am I trying too hard?
I think there is, but I don't think that's wrong because look at the goals he scored. When you've got the best striker in the world, arguably one of the best strikers in the world, with the finishing rate that he's got, his ability to get on the end of things, he can stretch just that extra little few inches to get on the end of balls that other strikers probably couldn't. Mm-hmm. For me, there's nothing wrong with that, I think. But once you see that's not working, and you see that Van Dijk and Gomez are dealing with that comfortably, they're winning their aerial duels, the position's perfect, they're clearly having that game of their lives there. You gotta start to try and think of other things and maybe revert back to what you was doing. And I think the only thing I saw from City in this game is that there were times where the pass wasn't Haaland, it was Foden. Whether it was the under-hit pass from Haaland to Foden where it didn't really fall to his left foot, he could have got a shot off, but in the end he had to cut in, or it was Gundogan kind of breaking free from that midfield, and instead of playing in Foden, who had acres of space, he's again looking for Haaland. It's probably an instruction because whoever does get the best out of Haaland, whoever does get the most assists out of him is going to probably play because they're trying to obviously get him as many goals as possible. But there were opportunities for City to pick their passes a little bit better, and they opted to go for Haaland when it wasn't really the ball. So maybe they're trying to overdo it, but it's understandable. It's understandable, yeah.
I think that's 5 unbeaten for Liverpool now against Man City, if I'm not mistaken. I think 2 draws last season, but then they beat them at Wembley. Then you got the Community Shield and the draws. So that's 5, That's 5 in the last 2 seasons that Liverpool have gone unbeaten against City. So, they've not quite kept pace this season. And last season, they very narrowly missed out on the league. But there's no doubt that when it comes to the one-on-one battles, Klopp's always enjoyed these affairs. I want to bring up some... Just an interesting pattern I noticed around XG and possession. Wondering whether basically we're seeing more efficient attacks these days. I've got the possession numbers for teams and I've got their XG. Have a little look at this. Liverpool put up an XG of 2.27 to Man City's 1.04. They only had 36% of the ball. Villa against Chelsea, we're going to talk about that game a little bit later, 2.2 XG with only 41% possession. And Arsenal with 3.3 XG against Liverpool with only 44% possession. I didn't even put that it was Liverpool, my bad. So I got an error on the graphic there. But generally, are we seeing teams become more efficient going forward? And actually, as other teams are trying to have more of the ball, everyone wants to play this style of football. You're always susceptible to the counter-attack, and teams are learning how to kill teams when they leave that space a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's just the speed of the play. When you're sitting in and you're able to transition at speed and make the correct decisions, you're gonna create big chances because that's when defensive shapes are destabilized. That's when there's not that block that you have to defeat. That like we spoke with Gomez and Van Dijk, they were always very close to each other, marshalling the defense, handling their business. Whereas when we still with the Salah goal, everything's all over the place. The centre-backs are not even there. Obviously, they're obviously on a set piece at that point. They're breaking. But this is the time where you can really catch people out. And I think, for me, possession, it's what you do with it. It's not just to have possession just to have it and say that, oh, you've dominated the game, because you can fall into traps. We saw that at Old Trafford where Arsenal had more possession. And then they almost played other teams at their own game with that. So, you know, Man United created some key chances in that game and they just simply countered and transitioned. So for me, it's about what you do with the ball, not that you just have the ball. And I think teams are starting to realise that, and they're starting to set themselves up, not in a negative way, but just waiting to pounce on any mishaps.
Like Salah was there with that goal. He was ready. He was staying up the field one-on-one with Cancelo, and he won that duel and got the goal. All right, guys, let's talk about Manchester United's draw with Newcastle. Let us know, of course, in the comment section any more takeaways you had away from that Liverpool-Man City game. Was this Pep again overthinking it at times a little bit? You let us know in the comments what you made of that match. United drew Newcastle. And I'll be honest, there's not really too much I can really say about it. I think it's so early in Ten Hag's journey that I don't really want to obsess too much or focus on the finer details. I was listening to some fan channels, listening to what others were saying, and a few times I heard that, you know, largely because of the players available, I suppose, we're not seeing too much different from what we've seen in the previous years with Man United. You're not seeing that instant impact Ten Hag was hoping to have. Here's some numbers. Their Premier League rank in 21-22 season compared to 22-23. They were 6th in terms of possession, 9th this year. They've dropped to 16th in terms of touches in the attacking penalty area. They've dropped to 14th in terms of touches in the attacking third. They've dropped for 20th in terms of pressures, 8th in terms of shot creating actions, and 11th for shots. I don't think these are particularly encouraging numbers whatsoever for Man United. But despite that, I think everyone kind of acknowledges that Ten Hag is trying to just be a little bit more pragmatic, not go the full way with the way he wants to play, because he still needs to get a lot of players to do it that way. And right now he's sort of just getting by. And actually 5 wins and a draw in your last 7 is really not a bad return. And since that bad Brentford game.
I think Ten Hag is doing what most new managers do, which is build from the back, literally. Set those foundations up and try and fix it from there, because Man United's defence was all over the place, you know, regardless of whether they were better going forward or they were scoring more goals. I think even at times this season, we've seen Manchester United score some really good goals, albeit in some hammering defeats. You know, even that Anthony goal against Manchester City was a really good goal, good team goal, but they got absolutely slaughtered. But on the whole, they are keeping a lot more clean sheets. They are defending a lot better. He obviously had to get quite a few of those players like the Maguires, the Luke Shaws, maybe out of the team. And he's brought in quite a few new players as well. So I think it's going to take time to actually see his style fully implemented. But if you see the moments that they're doing in terms of some of the goals that are being scored, there are some really good team goals in there. But it's just maybe hidden in the overall, you know, grand scheme of things that they're not playing beautiful football constantly.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because I watched the highlights of this new game, and there were moments I was like, "That's a really, that ball from Casemiro, where he's sort of outside of the boot into Rashford, and they should have had a penalty." And there were a few moments where you're like, you can see the quality. And you're right. You look at some of the goals. That Anthony goal will be remembered for the goal from how far it was, against Man City. But actually, it's the build-up. It's everything else. So there's evidence of the foundations, as you said. But actually, some of those attacking stats are still quite worrying. I wonder whether it's going to be more time with Ten Hag or actually just more players coming to him.
It could be a blend of both. I think Ronaldo in this game didn't have a shot on target against Newcastle, so they didn't really get much service.
Strange to take him off when you need a goal, because as Newcastle drop deeper, it makes more sense to have a Ronaldo on the pitch.
It's difficult with Ronaldo because we know he's a great goal scorer. We know he's a great shooter of the ball. He's one of the world's best at it. But obviously, with age, he's not able to bring every other facet to the game outside of that goal scoring in the box. Now, at times, he does show that. He does show good build-up play. He's not like as if he's lost all of his technical ability, but it's not consistent in terms of being involved in the team. And this is what happened when Man United had a really poor spell last season. Ronaldo was just almost a ghost, but we didn't see anything of him up front for a good 5, 6, 7, 8 game period. And that felt like a little bit what it was against Newcastle. Like I said, no shots on target, just a 1 shot off target, no dribbles completed, just not involved. I think what Ten Hag is going to want in the future is more of a Martial up top and maybe Ronaldo to come off the bench, but Martial's obviously got to stay fit consistently for that time.
Yeah, and he's having issues in that. And look at the bench as well he had to choose from. I mean, I've got no doubts on these young players. I've heard great things, so I've got no doubt they can go on to some great things. But, maybe Elanga, who's had some moments. But otherwise, you're struggling to make an impact, with the bench you've got. And I think that'll be a part. Yes, get some of those players back fit. But for all the money they've spent, I always think people can talk about the money United spent over the last 10 years, and that's rightly so, because when you're judging the club. But if you're judging Ten Hag, there's no point worrying about the money that was spent by others. He's got to get his players in, and you can see that they need some depth as well there. So,
I think for Man United, it's just a rebuild, isn't it? It's the money that they've spent, they've not necessarily spent it well. They were going for a period where they were bringing the Zlatans, the Schweinsteigers, Schneiderlin, Di Maria. There wasn't really a plan. It was just bringing in loads of big names. Didn't really work out. Then they've gone down the English talent route in terms of bringing in the Maguires, the Luke Shaws, promoting, the McTominays under Solskjaer. Didn't really work, didn't really bring them anywhere. So even Wan-Bissaka goes on and on. So now it's another period of time where maybe Ten Hag and the recruitment team actually get it right. I think they're one of the few teams that over that period that didn't really have a director of football or someone that really, a sporting director, somebody that really led the transfers like an Edu or, a Tiki or Edwards or someone. So that probably is potentially why some of the recruitment's been so poor. But yeah, that bench is very PL2, isn't it? It's very, very youthful, not much experience, not much know-how. And I always said, when I saw that bench, Man United are going to need to win with that starting 11. And if they don't put Newcastle to the sword with that starting 11, then the bench is going to struggle. Newcastle could have had a penalty as well. Callum Wilson brought down by Varane. I thought that was a penalty personally. Stuck his leg out, lazy leg.
I think it was a penalty.
So lucky maybe.
I should add, of course, Rashford. The reason Rashford's not on this list because he did come on. So these were the unused subs. Apologies if I didn't make that clear. Okay, let's talk about your guys, Chelsea. Who, listen, again, it looked like maybe, I wouldn't say got away with one, but Villa had their moment. Okay, you did, fair enough. I didn't want to say it.
Yeah, we did.
Let's have a look at your teams. Talk to us again.
Let's talk about it.
We may as well have a Potter section on every show because this is, again, so different from what we saw last week. Aubameyang restored to the 11. But yeah, talk us through it. Sterling right wing back. Is that a response to obviously the Reece James injury?
Yeah, I think he wanted to try that out. Reece James being out, obviously, until after the World Cup from a Chelsea perspective. He's always, for me, going to go with a natural fullback and then one winger, probably in those areas, so you can push one person up and still protect the transition.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You can sort of cover like that.
Yeah. Now, usually you wouldn't want that situation because Cucurella is not really a centre back, but he tried it in this game, and I feel like Cucurella and Chilwell could provide a good chemistry down that left hand side. They're both quick, both technical, maybe underlap sometimes and swap places, and so that could happen. That could be a little bit of something that could confuse opposition, but. To get straight into it, that right-hand side didn't work. We tried it. He tried it. He noticed at half-time it wasn't working. In fact, he noticed during the game in the first half it wasn't working. Aston Villa were bombarding us constantly. Loads of pressure, loads of shots. Kepa had the game of his life. Best game in a Chelsea shirt. It was coming from everywhere. It was coming centrally, from the left, from the right. McGinn had a shot there that should have probably scored. Ings had a header that was tipped over from point-blank range as well. The only reason why Chelsea were really ahead is because this man Mings, massive mistake in the first, opening part of the game.
6 minutes in.
I mean, it's a simple header, really.
And just get through that first 10 minutes.
Exactly. And the crowd were up. Like I said, Villa were playing well and the ascendancy was with them. But because of that error that he made where he just misjudged maybe where he was directing the ball, fell straight to Mason Mount, clinical, composed, finished, and Chelsea won the lot. But that didn't kick Chelsea on into playing any better. Like I said, Villa just kept piling on the pressure for the majority of the half. It felt like watching 90 minutes in 45. But Sterling was getting cut up on that side there. Dribbled past, nutmegged, everything. And then the left-hand side as well was taking a punishing as well. Cucurella probably had his worst game. And then he ends up Chilwell getting booked later on as well. So that left-hand side was getting destroyed and it was just leading to so many opportunities. And Chelsea, in the end, to try and negate for this, Potter moved Loftus-Cheek to right wing-back. He then pushed Mount into midfield and he pushed Sterling into Mason Mount's role. So he basically just rotated that triangle to try and stop the bleeding. Yeah, just to try and stop the bleeding because Loftus-Cheek played right wing-back against Tottenham at home and he played very well. You'd prefer him right now in centre midfield. I think he's been our best centre midfielder in the last few games. Kovar was giving the ball away a bit too much for my liking. I thought he was a bit lackadaisical in possession. But yeah, Sterling wasn't playing well on that right-hand side. He wasn't comfortable, so that had to be switched. And then he made 2 substitutions at half-time, brought on Koulibaly, brought on Azpilicueta, and that kind of calmed things down. Villa was still playing well and still creating, but it wasn't so in your face constantly.
That's so interesting because the way we've left it here after that change you talk about, that makes sense for this kind of thing, which is you're losing the ball, and that feels like a much more naturally 5-4-1 when you need to defend, or a 3-4-3 when you got the ball. Very reminiscent of what like Tottenham would do, or Conte, for example, when he was at Chelsea as well. So that makes a lot of sense to me. But what also makes sense to me, especially when we've got to know Potter's teams, if we just move everyone forward, is to have Sterling and Chilwell there with kind of two natural 10s.
Yeah.
That feels quite Potter. And while I haven't, while I'm no expert on what he does, those are players in positions they can have impact. Sterling, high, wide, and right. Yeah. We saw that at Man City for years. So again, I think the idea is there. I get what he was probably trying to do.
Yeah. Well, second half he takes off Kai, who was really not too involved in the game, apart from the chance that he created with Sterling, who also didn't play that well. Sterling hits the crossbar. Leon Bailey hit the bar as well. So there was a lot of chances for Villa. I think Villa ended up having 13 shots on target in total. Eight actually that Kepa had to save in the end, and he was, like I said, incredible. Made 3 triple saves, actually one after the other, back to back. But in the end, Kai Havertz comes off, Cucurella comes off, on comes Koulibaly to come onto that left side centre back position and revert back to something a bit more familiar if you wanted to move to a 4, with him being at centre back and being obviously a lot more physically imposing than Cucurella. Cucurella was getting dragged in a lot. Seemed like he wanted to engage with the ball a lot whenever he was defending. He would almost come in, and he's done it quite a few times for Chelsea when he's played in that left side centre back position. He wants to almost engage. He wants to be touch tight. But then if he doesn't engage, he doesn't win the ball, then there's space behind him. And that's where Silva gets dragged out, and then it just becomes chaos. So Koulibaly comes in there, and Azpilicueta comes on as well. And it starts to look a little bit more, and Loftus-Cheek then moves back into midfield, and it starts to look a little bit more like what you're saying. And it starts to make a little bit more sense. I think he was just trying it with Reece James out because he does want to have very attacking wing backs that almost become wingers.
On the wings
because I think the initial plan was Sterling to be here anyway. When he's at right wing back, really, if we were to dominate possession and really be in control of the game, which we wasn't, then Sterling wouldn't be at wing back. He would be at right wing. But it just didn't go that way. Villa came out the blocks flying, and it was a struggle.
It's what did we mention with Klopp just then? It's fluid formations. It's having players that can do multiple things, and you can mix it up. So, fair enough. You got the win. Potter keeps going. Kepa, you mentioned, had a superb game. And is Mendy injured, or is Kepa's earned his place?
I think Kepa had the most saves as for a Chelsea goalkeeper since 2017-2018.
Okay, wow.
In the Premier League in a match. Also, Aston Villa in the first half spent 46% of their time in the Chelsea final third, not in our half, in the final third. So that just tells you how much we were handling, in terms of how much pressure we were under constantly.
That's incredible.
It was just shot after shot after shot. So Kepa really did have the game of his life. For me, he was man of the match. Mason Mount with a moment of brilliance as well with the free kick. And that went into the roof of the net. Maybe Martinez's position could have been better, but it had a little bit of a dip and a swerve on it. But it was all about Kepa, really. And if the goalkeeper's having a normal performance in a game like that, then Chelsea could have lost, to be honest. Lucky to get out with a win. But in games like that, you're going to have a game, in a run of 9 in 1 month where you potentially don't play well, coming off the back of a Champions League game, couple little niggle injuries, and Aston Villa with the full week to prepare. For me, when I looked at that performance from Aston Villa and Gerrard, I thought, that doesn't look like a team that's their manager's under pressure. They look like they're still playing for him. They were unbeaten in 4 going into this game as well. They drew with Manchester City at Villa Park. And they turned up. They turned up for this game. And like I said, without those individual errors, Mings giving the free kick away, the mistake with the header, Martinez maybe in goal, those little moments there, without that, they could have potentially got something out of the game, maybe even won it based on their play and their XG and everything. So it didn't look like a team that wanted their manager sacked, but of course you need points at this point.
Yeah, of course. Well, listen, we'll keep an eye on Gerrard as well and maybe talk about him a little bit more next week, because I don't think I can judge him on a game against Chelsea with the players Chelsea have. But definitely conversations to be had around him and the job he's doing there as well. Let's talk about my team, Arsenal. So, look, again, the full breakdown you can always find on AFTV on the Tactical Insight Show with me and Graham. He does an amazing job. I wanted to talk about 2 things. Something that went wrong for Arsenal, something that went right for Leeds. Starting with what went wrong for Arsenal. This is, by the way, we won the game. We did win.
Yeah.
But anyone who watched it knows we were pretty horrendous, especially in that second half. First half, there's some lovely combinations. We played quite well and crafted some openings. Second half was all Leeds. And the big part as to why we didn't see Arsenal at their best compared to basically all other 9 Premier League games up to this 10th one was Gabriel Jesus' involvement. Now, I said it on Tactical Insight, I love the guy. He's had a massive impact, but I think we learned a little bit how important he can be in terms of giving us that fluidity and flow in the final third. You think of the involvement he had, getting past Thiago and putting Martinelli through for that counter-attack in the second goal against Liverpool. And he wasn't exactly at his very best against Liverpool, Jesus, but even if he's playing 6, 7 out of 10, he can have a good game. He was nowhere near that for me. And you could see his 22, 23 average for these stats versus his numbers against Leeds. And there was a drop in everything from touches, passes, shots, and successful dribbles. Love the guy, but when he just isn't at his best, we saw what it can actually do for an Arsenal performance. So maybe if he wasn't completely fully fit, which those are the rumours, then maybe you probably get Nketiah to start this game. But Jesus had his moments. Jesus did okay. He wasn't bad in any way, but it's just when he's not kind of at his best, or at least kind of that level below, Arsenal seem to lack something, especially in that.
He's an outlet, isn't he?
He's such an outlet.
People talk about Jesus and maybe he should have more goals as he missed too many chances. But his overall involvement in Arsenal's gameplay and their general play, that is what they've purchased as well. It's not just the goals, because you can get goals and share them out in that front line with Martinelli, with Saka
and they are
with
sharing
the finish.
them,
And it is basically shared at this point. Even Vieira, he looks like as if he's got a shot on him as well. But his ability to hold up the ball, his ability to run the channels, his ability to link up play, that's what is so critical, because if Arsenal are ever under the caution, he is at his best and he's able to be a vacuum, and take that pressure off and then get you up the pitch. That's what's needed. So I think he's crucial, and whether Nketiah can do that when he comes in, even for a spell of a couple of games, because he's going to need his rest. I think he's going to the World Cup. He should be going to the World Cup.
Jesus,
So you would think that, he's going to need some sort of rest maybe during the season, and that's where Nketiah will have to step in and maybe try and contribute. But I think Jesus has been a huge signing for you guys.
You're right about him being an outlet. We saw against Crystal Palace the opening night of the Premier League season, actually. Even though Palace had a lot of the game, especially in that second half, we always looked like we might get a goal on the counter, and a big part of that was Jesus and his work rate and everything. I do need to touch on Leeds and give him massive credit, because I've not watched a lot of Leeds this season. And listen, I'm not even going to do some mad analysis on them here, because I was so focused on Arsenal's performance. But where in the first half Arsenal were able to combine and play, and they looked quite good. I actually thought once, and let's see if I've got him in, once Bamford came on for Rodrigo, they had just this block that was very hard to play through. Now, Harrison kind of popped central. Harrison was playing on the left a little bit. I mean, the four were kind of, I'm making a mess of this. The four were kind of playing a little bit everywhere. But what you did have was a really kind of high line. Let's bring the Arsenal players forward as well. That was basically forcing Saka and Martinelli to play really deep, because Rocker and Adam, I've illustrated it horrendously on this TV, but oh well. Let's show it in red. Basically, Rocker, Adams, Harrison, Sinistera, they were just so narrow and able to just stop us playing through. Whenever we were trying to play out the back, we had our moments, yes, but largely we just couldn't get to the other end of the pitch because of the work ethic of those five, and Bamford as well causing us a problem. And they really impressed me. They're going to be really comfortable this season, probably. What I'm saying is last season they got caught up in a relegation battle. I don't see that happening this year.
It's completely different to what Bielsa was doing. First of all, personnel-wise, there's no Rafinha, obviously. He's gone out. Phillips has left as well. Bamford was injured for the majority of, the last season. I can't remember the last time I was really seeing him on a consistent basis. He looked a bit rough around the edges, but he was a massive part of that counter press. But Rocker and Adams are crucial. And I remember when I was watching them against us, when they beat us, they absolutely slapped us 3-0, I believe, as well, at Ellen Road. And that press that you're talking about, they're very vertical. They're very focused on central areas. Jesse March, I think, has come out and said that before as well. They want to focus on central areas, whether it's on the ball, playing the ball in between the lines quickly, or it's off the ball. They want to be compact, very narrow, like you said, and just suffocate teams. So they are very difficult to play out from the back against. And there was a lot of mistakes. Arsenal were almost looking like they were going to concede based on just trying to play out from the back. And I think the only way that you could maybe bypass this type of suffocation is to go long and to maybe see if you can hold the ball up from, say, the halfway line. If you was to have maybe a target man, or Jesus was able to do that for you, and then work it from there. Because when they're pressing like that, it's very, very difficult to get out, especially at home as well with the crowd. It's ridiculous.
First half, Arsenal did a really good job of it, actually, in moments after weathering the first 15 minutes. But Second half, it's like they dialed it up a little bit, Leeds, and said, "Come on, we can go."
Love Aronson and Sinister. These two players are just serious. Like the recruitment that they've done at Leeds has been ridiculous.
Yeah.
So technical. Yeah. Hard working. And very versatile, like you're saying as well. And they should have probably had an equaliser, to be honest.
Yeah. No, an equaliser. They should have 4. And that's coming from an Arsenal fan. Listen, delighted we won. And with all the other 9 performances, I can sit here and be very happy with the place that the team's in. But I can also be honest, Leeds deserve to win that game. Yeah. All right, let's talk a little bit about, there's just 2 more games I think we wanted to very quickly mention. I want to talk about Leicester. I just got it here in my notes. This is where they rank in the league. We just Man United's ranks. Here's Leicester's ranks in the league for certain stats. In terms of shots, they're the 8th best team in the league. Shot creating actions, 10th. Touches in the attacking third, 9th. Touches in the penalty area, 14th. And yet at the moment, they look like they're in a relegation battle. I watched a bit of the second half against Palace. And they didn't look like a team, a bit like you said with Villa and Gerrard. Yeah. They look like they're playing for Rodgers. They're trying to score goals. They're playing some nice stuff at times. And they did the same against Tottenham. They lost 6-2, but they weren't the worst team, genuinely. Yeah. And they came to the Emirates, we beat them 4-2, but they had a couple of moments in that game. And I just feel like I'm watching Leicester, and when it clicks, I think they'll go on a mini run of like 4 wins in 7 or 5 wins in 8, and they'll start climbing that table, and people will sort of stop this narrative around that. I understand the position they're in is pretty unacceptable, but I feel a little for them as well. I really do. I think they'll stick with Rodgers, and I just about think that's the right thing. Where are you with it?
I think they have no choice because obviously the payout is massive. I don't like the narrative that's being created around managers like Rodgers, like Poch, who have really done very well with these teams that were nowhere near, we're talking about the Southamptons, the Tottenhams, and obviously now the Leicesters. Take PSG out of that. But these teams that they had no right to be in and around the areas that they were in the league, challenging for Champions League, getting to Champions League finals or winning the FA Cup. And because now that cycle is over, potentially, and those players have maybe reached their ceiling and they're starting to lose some key players, obviously, Sales. People forget as well, Leicester had a massive injury crisis last season as well. There was Fofana that was out. There was Justin that was out. Ndidi missed periods as well. Maddison's very injury prone, unfortunately for him. Vardy missed periods as well. And that's not the same as having an injury crisis at one of the top 6 clubs because they don't have the depth to be able to bring these players and replace them and suddenly, make everything work again. So I think Rodgers, for him, first of all, is still a very talented manager. I don't know whether he benefits from being within this cycle of Leicester because I don't know whether he can really get them back to that back-to-back 5th place finishes. It seems like there is a downward trajectory, if not relegation scrap because they've got still far too many good players to do that, but maybe maximum mid-table. So I don't know if it really makes sense for him, but for Leicester, they've still got a very talented manager at the helm. Yeah. It's just the point of those players like Maddison, they're on their way out. Contracts are expiring for Tielemans, for Ndidi. Yeah. And I think that's part of it. And maybe just a disappointment of missing out on 4th, back-to-back seasons takes its toll. Similar to Liverpool, where we speak about them missing out on things as well.
I think they need to replenish the stock and add some players before they go changing the manager personally. I understand the manager's easy to change, but Brendan Rodgers, I still think is a top coach despite everything that's been going on there. Let's talk about Brentford. The highlight really is you. I'm going to read the stat, but it's all Matisse. You mentioned Ivan Toney going under the radar. I had to look it up. 12 goals, 5 assists in 33 Premier League games last season. So that's 17 goals and assists. Yep. He's currently on 8 goals, 2 assists in 10 Premier League games.
No one's talking about it because Haaland is just doing unthinkable things in terms of goal output. But that is ridiculous, that stat line for Toney in a Brentford team as well. So
that have been a bit up and down.
That have been a bit up and down and have been up and down last season and this season. So it's ridiculous. And the first goal is a wonderful flick. The confidence that he's got right now running through his veins is on another level because the ball comes in from the right hand side, but he's just flicked it, little behind, wonderful finish. Penalty, we know I think he's got a 100% record from the penalty spot. He never misses. So calm, just tucks it into the bottom corner. He's on a ridiculous reign of form and he's so complete. He can hold up the ball. He can run into the channels. He's a great finisher. He's strong. He's able to take set pieces. He scored a wonderful free kick earlier in the season as well. Went straight into the top corner. For me, he is a shoo-in to go to the World Cup. and he stays fit, which is something that Callum Wilson will have to fight him over, which is staying fit because he gets his goals as well. But yeah, his rise is ridiculous from Peterborough, now Brentford, and now for me, I think at the end of this season, if he keeps doing what he's doing, he's got to go to a top team. And I think the big clubs, all of the big clubs, should be looking at him. Really,
I completely agree with you. I can't add any more to that. I echo everything you said. I think got to go to the World Cup, got to go to, with all due respect to Brentford, playing European football, maybe Champions League. I think he's good enough. Those numbers are impressive. I'm sure he'll keep it up.
Yeah.
But he's looked immense. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Do like the video if you enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts on Salah's goal, Liverpool's tactical tweak, everything we saw as well from the games. Ivan Toney, where's he going to end up? We'll be in the comment section as always discussing with you. Matisse, thank you so much for joining. Love the suit,
Been
mate.
a pleasure.
Looking fantastic. I hope we've delivered professionally. Let's go for a kick about ourselves now.
I think we should. A little kick about.
That's a proper Premier League ball as well.
Oh, it's
fair
lovely.
enough. Yeah, that's really nice. Let's go. What am I doing here? Let me start that again. I was waffling. I was just doing too much. Let's start again. All right. Yeah, you got the ball.
Duty
Yeah,
balls.
got your kit on.
Yeah,
nice.
I think so.
Yeah, nice boots.
Yeah,
Fair
lovely. Lovely
Right, let's
stuff.
go. Right. Let's go. I missed it. Oh my God, nearly. It could have been perfect. Oh, do you know what? I'm just going to try hit the camera and you're just going to stop me. Robbie's going to kill me. Nice boots.
Oh, thank
No,
you.
fair enough. Fair play. Not much of a baller, are you? Here
we got to run that again. That ball's really like slippery. Holy shit.
Yeah, add the outtakes after. Okay, that's cool.
Okay, that's better.
Sick.
We've done it.